Does your child get frustrated doing homework? Would you like to help your child learn at home or when you're out in the community? I can help. Hi, I'm Stuart Ackerman. I've been an educator for over 17 years and I've helped many children achieve academic success. Today, I'm going to share with you my personal strategies, techniques, and views so that you can help your child learn right here on Teacher Time. Studies have shown that stress affects about 40% of students from all grade levels, from elementary school to high school. Among the most common reasons for getting school stress is a student's lack of preparation and organization. Organization is a key learning skill found in the provincial report card that can help your child reduce stress and improve academic performance. My guest today is a cultural program specialist, Elliott Michaelson, who is here to discuss how parents can help their children manage both extracurricular education and the regular school program. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
You know, it's funny, the kids come home from the regular program and they have all their work to do and their homework, and then many children still go to more school. They have Chinese programs or Farsi language or Italian or Hebrew.
That's right.
And it's very difficult to juggle. What is essentially the difference between cultural education and a regular program?
Well, regular program, you're thinking of something more like sports or music, right? So cultural education is different in the sense that it occupies the same time slot as sports or music, but the requirements are very different. So you have kids coming back with homework, they have, especially if it's a language program, they have vocabulary that they have to practice. It's quite different than practicing your piano for 10 minutes every day, especially if you are living in a home, as most kids do, especially in language programs like Hebrew or Chinese or anything like that, where the secondary program, the language of the cultural program, is not spoken as a vernacular in the house. So it requires a lot of extra practice, and often the language program is coupled with a lot of cultural education. So you don't just go to Chinese school to learn the Chinese language. You also learn about the history of China. You learn about Chinese culture overall, and that adds an extra element. It's not the kind of thing that you can prepare for easily in the same way that children who take soccer, for example, they go to a practice and they go to a game. So they have their preparation, they have their test, so to speak, and it's very straightforward, and you just show up and you do it. But the expectation with cultural programs is that the majority of the preparation and the majority of the affiliation is actually happening outside of the program, that it comes from the home.
Right, so I can see it's pretty easy for parents to just take their kids to soccer or hockey, you go for the time. So how would a parent have to juggle a cultural program with their child insofar as getting them ready, preparing everything? It sounds like a bit of an organizational nightmare compared to just going to soccer and martial arts practice.
It can be. I mean, I've been working in the Jewish community. I've been working on with part-time educational programs for 22 years now, and it is a major problem. The parents are all very dedicated, and the kids, for the most part, are also very dedicated, but finding the time is very hard for them, and finding the organization and the structure during the week can be very difficult. Now, fortunately, most cultural programs that I've encountered in the Jewish and in outside of the Jewish community are organized enough that the teachers and the principals and the people running it have certain resources that the parents can use. But really, it all comes from the home. How are you going to organize yourself in the home? How are you going to organize your schedule for the week so that the kids get that extra time that they need? Because ultimately, as any baseball coach would tell you, if you don't practice enough, you're not going to be very good at it.
That's right.
And not only will you not be good at it, but you won't be inspired to continue. And this is especially acute with cultural programs because the primary reason for parents enrolling their kids is for the kids to develop a cultural identity. And if we don't give the kids the follow-up that they need, if we're not organized enough at home, then the kids will not want to affiliate when they're older, and they'll lose their sense of identity.
So when a parent has a child at home and they have to get ready for their cultural program, quite often I would assume that most parents would probably be getting everything ready, putting everything together, throwing it in the backpack.
I hope so.
And the child would just be ready to go when needed. So what would a typical part-time cultural education program look like, from start to the end of the actual class, so that a child would need that organization?
Well, there are many different kinds of programs. My primary experience, of course, is within the Jewish community. So the Hebrew schools and the synagogue schools that you see in our community tend to be very organized and very mobilized. But even when I speak to colleagues outside of the Jewish community, people who run Sunday schools in churches, or parents who are trying to run Chinese schools, like there's one parent group that I spoke to in my kids' own school, my own public school. They wanted to see if they could get a Chinese program running. They all share certain features. They usually have an organized text that they're using. There isn't necessarily a written curriculum. The good ones have it, right, but they don't all. But they have some form of organized text, and they have an instructor who has some idea, some plan for the year as to what they're going to do. And most cultural programs also follow a ritual calendar or a cultural calendar of some kind. So these are the sorts of things that parents can get from the programs. The programs will provide certain basic materials. They'll provide a calendar, and if they don't, especially if you're involved with a church group or a temple or mosque or anything like that, you can ask them, because these institutions have to follow a ritual calendar in order to do their work. So you can get those from them. You can also go online.
I like what you said earlier about the program being cross-curricular, where the children would learn the language, the history, and that encompasses, again, a cross-curricular perspective. It's interesting to think that they would have to be in that program and compartmentalize each component. So in a typical cultural education program, do they generally address language as one aspect, culture is another aspect, even perhaps the religion is another aspect, or is it all intertwined? Like, does it help the child to organize, this is what I'm learning now, this is another part of what I'm learning, or is it just all put together in a mishmash?
Part of it depends on the time. The longest running part-time programs that I know about run for 6 hours a week. So the kids are there 3 times in the week, say Sunday morning, and then maybe Tuesday and Thursday evening after school. So if you have 6 hours, you have the ability to split. You can do your religious studies, let's say on Sunday morning. You can do language studies on Tuesday and maybe history on Thursday. You have the ability to split things up.
Okay, I like that idea, like you're talking about compartmentalizing things.
That's right.
Okay, so you did bring something in that shows us how to compartmentalize some of the children's work and their program at home. Okay, so what's the first thing you brought in here? It looks like a bulletin board. Can you tell us a little bit more about it?
All right, so this is something that I recommend to many parents to have someplace in their home.
Okay.
Someplace visible. You don't want it tucked away in a corner where you just sort of bring it out once a week or twice a week when the kids are in the program, but something that's visible in the home. And this is very important in terms of organizing your house, because it means that every day the kids are seeing it. They may not necessarily think about practicing, or maybe they may not even necessarily think about doing their homework for it all the time, but it's there and they see it. So the 4 things that I recommend that families put in there, you have examples here of flashcards. So here you have vocabulary that the kids are learning. Now these are in Hebrew because my background is in Jewish education, but if your kids are in a Hindi program or Chinese program or Arabic or whatever it is they're doing, they still use flashcards. So what the kids are working on can be right here in a corner. And it's also a good way for the parents to keep track of what the kids are doing, so the parents can see that the kids are actually learning.
Great.
We also have down here a sample of the kids' work. So depending on the program and how good the teacher is, or the sensibilities of the teacher, the kids might do a lot of arts and crafts. I know when I run programs, I emphasize a lot of arts and crafts. So I always tell parents, reserve a corner for something that the kids have done, and let the kids make the choice.
And I know a lot of students that I've worked with at home also use a similar component with their regular studies.
That's right.
Great. You brought some other items. Looks like a regular package for carrying some files?
Yeah. I always tell parents, take your kids to Staples or the dollar stores, actually, Dollarama, like one of those places. That's where these are all from. This is all dollar store stuff. So something like this, it's easy for the kids to put their stuff inside. And usually they come with a card, or you can just get your own index card. You stick it in, and the kids can decorate their name, especially if it's a language program. The kids write their name in whatever the language is. So, you know, they've had a chance to decorate.
Great.
I also tell parents to have a separate pencil case, right, like this, for the kids' supplies. Many programs do not have the budget to provide art supplies.
Right.
And if you start mixing in your regular school supplies with your part-time school supplies, it gets to be a big mess. And this gives the kids a sense that this is real. It's a serious program. It's a real program.
I like that. Thank you. And I see you also brought in the tray. I use a multi-tiered tray as well. And what I really like about it is that the students can put in their agendas from the regular program,
right,
as well as some of their work from their other program. It's great when they come home. I know I suggest parents use this a lot, that they come home, they put the agenda on the tray or the work, and then they know where it is for the next day. Problem is they can't find the work. That's the biggest problem, a lack of organization. They don't know where their work is. They don't know where things are. And especially if you're juggling more than one type of program. If you have a regular day program and then a cultural program, you're going to get everything mixed up. So I think that's really important to know that kids should be really well organized for that. We're going to take a quick break.
Sure.
Please come back soon. We'll be right back. It was really interesting.